Pool E provides a very interesting and opportunistic time for Singularity to possibly shine. The mostly UK squad finished top 6 at Miami, and I had a chance to catch up with Detain to talk about the current team and their hopeful promises coming forward when they get to the pools. What up, COD fans? Welcome back to another 32 on 32, this time featuring the top 6 finisher of Team Singularity. Like I mentioned, mostly dealing with a lot of UK players. This team had a lot of clout behind it as far as players that have been in the mix and have had some pretty substantial finishes over the course of the year. And I had a chance, like I mentioned, to sit and talk with Detain about the squad as far as how they got to know one another and what they are feeling their strengths are when it comes down to this pool in specific, which is one that honestly feels like it's pretty up for grabs between the 2nd and 4th spot, as UYU is one of the teams in this mix, where, again, we're not 100% sure what we're going to expect from a team like that. So taking a look just at the pools, again, just generally speaking, Pool E consists of Luminosity, UYU, Team Singularity, and Vanity, the former Excalibur squad now picked up under the org of Vanity. So, as we take a look at this pool in general, we know the strengths of Luminosity, obviously. They're obviously a huge powerhouse. They're looking really, really solid with their most recent roster changes. The SOG line got much better with the hit scan patch. They're looking like they could be very much so a huge favorite going in to World Championships. UYU, on the other hand, kind of found themselves on the back end of what looked to be a pretty awful roster mania, considering that it was a bunch of players that were kind of the scraps from teams that didn't want them anymore. Kind of like the Hard Knock Life crew here, and they had a very rough go of it during the cross-divisional, but did find themselves at least one win when they were at Miami. So going into this pool, with Vanity, another team that is also very, very strong and was able to take down Mindfreak early on in the open bracket, what can Singularity expect? Well, let's take a look at this team in specific here. We go back to some of the placements that these players have had, starting off with Detain. One of the SMG players, at least as he was playing at Miami, had a very long, lengthy time. And really, the core 4 of this team has been together throughout the entirety of this game. And you'll hear more about where these guys kind of fell apart before the game and how they came back together from Detain himself. It was a top 48 for Detain and Insight through the cover of Black Forest Games. Divine was the host for Bids and Keza in the PLQ, and actually Singularity was the team that Kleenex had played with, and that was a top 112 finish for them at Vegas. Singularity then came and found the core 4 of what this roster is for both Fort Worth and for London, a top 12 and then a top 8 finish from Fort Worth to London respectively. Legion Nation was actually the squad that Kleenex played with for another top 12 finish, and then Bids and Kleenex not able to make it to Anaheim. It was actually Fuego with the top 6 finish under Detain, Insight, and Keza who were able to make that happen. And then, of course, Singularity coming back into the mix, able to find themselves this nice group of 5 players to get themselves another top 6 finish at Miami. This is a very dangerous squad. 22-8 was the map count that they were able to put together. And interestingly enough, during their winner's bracket run, they started off a flawless 6-0 before they would eventually go up against Aspire, who would knock them down in 4 games. So that would leave for a pretty lengthy loser's bracket run, kind of similar to how RBL had to do it and Sage had to do it and all those other teams before them. When it comes to losing that qualifying round, you had to win a couple just to get yourself involved. Singularity would be able to beat Hyper Esports 3-0, which would give themselves the top 16 qualification. They would continue their reign, able to beat what at the time was Firesticks Gaming in 4, and this Vanity team that's currently in the pools in 4. 3-1 score there. They would then get past Carnage Gaming at a clean 3-0 before Mazer would finally end their run, but it took 5 maps to do it. Again, this squad I feel like is kind of laying under the radar a little bit, but them and Sicario both as top 6 finishers are very, very dangerous squads, and you have to be keeping an eye on them because, again, 22-8 is actually pretty darn good considering that they lost 2 games. You do the math as far as how that goes. And both of those games are best of 5. So that's 6 of their 8 losses in 2 rounds alone. That's insane, especially considering that some of the teams that even finished above that didn't even come away with only 8 losses. That's a pretty impressive total. But like I mentioned, I had some time to sit down and talk with Detain. Take a look to see how that interview went. Joining me now from Singularity, I have Detain on hand and on deck, and well, we've got a lot to talk about with the Singularity squad, a lot of experience here, so you have my attention, Detain. I want to first and foremost just talk about this team's history, because a lot of you guys played at Vegas. Some of you were able to reach the top 32 and get yourself into the PLQ, others not quite as fortunate. So tell me about just the history of this squad, because immediately after Vegas, most of you guys teamed up and have been kind of riding out the season together.
Yeah. Okay, well, at the end of World War II, Bids was like competing for like the most of the year. He got to champs, obviously. He had quite a few good runs in open events, top 20, I think, and top 24, a couple good placements. Keza and I had just turned 18 towards the end of the season, and Insight was playing with French players, Spanish players. He was just trying to get by that year. And we all agreed in the off season, because we had competed alongside each other when we were under 18, playing like youth leagues or like youth tournaments, whatever. And we were pretty like dominant in that scene, and we all got along quite well. So this was when we thought it was still 4v4. We thought we'd just play with each other, we're all comfortable with each other. And then they brought in the big curveball, 5v5, and they didn't leave us too long to pick up a fifth. So then Bids got all panicky, and he went to join. I can't remember what the team was. Team Divine, was it there?
Yeah,
was
Team
that
Divine
name?
for PLQ. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all basically went to the event separately. Kleenex, who is on our team now, was with Singularity, and that was a full Danish roster at Vegas. Who they weren't very good, and they got top 112, 144, something like that.
Yeah, top 112.
Myself, Insight, and Keza got top 48. We lost to the Frenchies, like Riz King's, like, I don't know if Riz King was on the team then, but we lost to that team, and we lost to the Midnight Academy team when Envoy was still an AM.
Right.
He literally like winged that team hard. That was unfortunate, but we could have easily made PLQ. And then Bids, I think they had a pretty decent seed, so they had a fairly easy run into the PLQ. And then yeah.
Past that, you guys join bet together. You play as Singularity. Top 12 finish at Fort Worth. Top 8 finish at London. But it's Kleenex who's the new guy on the block after the top 6 finish again at Anaheim as well. So kind of give me some background on how you guys were able to find Kleenex as being that coveted 5th player.
We picked up Kleenex after like the whole PLQ thing went down. Whenever Keza ended up going to the PLQ instead of Bids on that team, and they played it out, and then all of our focus went on to Fort Worth. Pretty sure we had Kleenex around end of January, start of February.
Okay.
But he had exams to play for. I stopped him from playing. So we had to pick up Genesis instead. He's been on a couple of like decent rosters throughout the year, but like our whole team was centered around picking up Toby, bringing him in, and like sort of bringing him up because he was lesser known at the start of the year. He was just like that online player, but we brought him through and ended up having to switch him out a month or so before the event, get Genesis in. It was still like the same core 4 of me, Bids, Insight, and Keza, but we had to switch out like new blood.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, getting into Pool E, I actually have this pool pegged as the one pool out there that a 3rd or 4th seed could surprise and have a pretty easy time, or at least an easier time, making a top 2 placement. You guys got Vanity in your group from the open bracket, but then beyond that, you've got UYU who have looked all over the place, and then let's be honest, Luminosity is looking like a juggernaut at the moment. So what was your reaction when you heard the pool that you guys got drawn into, and what are your kind of expectations when you're looking at a team like Vanity and UYU?
Well, people had like their like predictions, and people kind of like pre-planned who would be in what groups and whatever. Like,
sure,
we knew it was either 100 Thieves or Luminosity. I'm pretty sure would have been. And we'd much rather have LG than 100 Thieves. It'd be cool to play against 100 Thieves, but it's a lot less practical in my opinion. And Midnight or UYU was like our tier 2 like pro team that we'd play. I wouldn't really mind playing against either of those. I think they're both genuinely beatable. And the only team I didn't personally want from the open bracket in our group was Train Hard, because that would be like one less scrim we could play.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think that obviously UYU and Vanity are pretty beatable. This pool in specific has been a little bit all over the place. I've had a lot of time to watch this Vanity team play. They've been looking a little bit wishy-washy lately. But when it comes to your guys' strengths in particular, what are some of the things that viewers could expect? Are you guys a really good hardpoint team, search and destroy team, control team? What seems to be your forte so far?
I feel like we're very good at the respawn modes. We're good at working on the fly with each other and like adapting to how teams play, and like clocking onto any like abnormal plays people make or curveballs people might throw in, and
Sure.
we're good at adapting and working on the fly with each other. That's our main strength.
Fair enough. Well, that'll pretty much wrap things up for me here. I mean, again, this is going to be really interesting. I've got this pool pegged as one where a lot of drama could stir up. So hopefully we'll see you guys able to make it into the top 2. Detain, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Best of luck to you guys in Team Singularity.
Thank you.
So you heard it from him first. Again, a lot of familiarity with this team. And honestly, as I look at this squad, that is a huge positive as they're looking to move through this pool. Again, you take a look at the pool, and I'm concerned about this UYU team. And this Vanity squad also very, very good. So when it comes down to it, is there potential for Vanity or Singularity to finish top 2? 100,000,000% yes. And that possibility is absolutely high. Not as high as 1,000,000%, but it's very, very high. And I think this Singularity team has a lot of strengths. I didn't get a chance to see them play all that much when it came down to the open bracket itself at Miami, but I have had a chance to see Vanity play at pretty great length, and there have been some shaky moments for that squad. And again, this is a Singularity team that has a lot of familiarity, so not only are you expecting them to be pretty solid at search and destroy, but they should have their stuff figured out when it comes down to their respawn modes in specific. Again, this is one of the most experienced teams out there, and based off placings, one of the most average best placing teams from the open bracket as a whole when you look at the core 4 in specific. But since this team has familiarity from not only this title but also before it, as this core 4 of it comes in, and Kleenex, who's been doing a very nice job with the Ruin playing the SMG, seems to be the one piece that they really needed to complete the puzzle. So is there going to be potential for them to come through this bracket and this pool? I think the answer is yes, and personally I have this team finishing second in this pool just behind Luminosity. I don't see UYU cleaning up as much as going to be needed to take down some pretty hefty foes from the open bracket in both Singularity as well as in Vanity. A little bit of a shorter one for you guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the content, just generally speaking. Again, more of these videos are popping up. If you missed ones before, make sure you go back to the channel and check them out. Otherwise, for future ones, hit the subscription button, ring that notification bell to know when these videos do pop live, because they will be coming in fast and furious fashion. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a huge pleasure for me to be able to bring out this content for you guys. Hopefully you're learning a lot and taking a lot away for your viewing experience coming forward for World Champs. Till the next one, though, hope you all keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.